right, back by popular demand is Liane, our new co-host of Live to Tell.
It appears that way. Hey, Cassie.
Yeah, I mean, hello. How are you this fine week?
I'm great. Glad
Good.
15 minutes ago I found out I was doing this. So.
You're just such a professional that you can get this together, Lauren. We have another colleague who walked by. She's like, "What are you doing?" Because I'm just talking to myself in the middle of an open space. So, showbiz.
Well, glad to be
right.
on. What are we talking about today?
So today we are going to kick things off. We have a few stories that are on 1851 that I think are worth mentioning. So the first is a feature that we have about how fast brands should expand. I think that oftentimes when people get into franchising, they have these grand ideas that they're going to get into the business, start moving with franchisees right out of the gate. And when that doesn't happen, they oftentimes get really frustrated and are wondering where those leads are and when that money is going to come in, since it isn't exactly a cheap process to go through getting everything set up to become a franchise. But some of the key insights that we have in this story, we'll link out to it when we post this on 1851. But slow and steady, it really seems wins the race, because then you're not going too fast where you can't keep up with the people that you're bringing in, and it helps ensure that you're building stronger validation, which is another thing that we'll get to in a moment.
That's absolutely right. I think that growing too fast is a big mistake, because I think what happens is people get super excited about growth, and they'll take on, I think one of the biggest things, and I think anybody with franchising would agree, is that they start to take on people because they just want to grow, because they need a franchisee to validate, and then that once they have one, then they can get two, then they can get 10, and then they can get 20. But what often is happening in the first set of franchisees that come on board is they might not be the right fit for the brand. And those are lessons that you kind of learn the hard way and along the way. So I think really understanding who you are as a brand and who you're willing to take on, even though you're excited to get moving and you're excited to have that first franchisee, to be able to prove the concept and to be able to have somebody to validate and to be able to, to do your item 19 and all of those things. But having the wrong one can set you back further than it can push you forward.
Exactly. Yeah. You'd rather be slower to get those franchisees on board versus having them come on and then close and then have to explain that in your FDD.
That's right.
All right. And then mentioned this, but the other story that we have on 1851 is all about how franchisee validation increases organic leads. So I think that this comes into play, obviously, when franchisees are happy. They're going to be your best resource to convince other people that this is the opportunity that's right for them. I think validation within a system is one of, if not the most important things that you can be dealing with, just because if you have unhappy owners, the first thing that a candidate is going to do is want to talk to someone who's already walked in the shoes that they would potentially be walking in. So I think it can't be overlooked. And yeah, ultimately it's the best sales tool that franchise development people have at their disposal.
Yeah, really. It's really the best way for a prospective franchisee to kind of get the really inside, down and dirty, how fast did you grow? Did you actually make this much money? How good is the support system at the brand? And then they can, the franchisee is always going to be honest. So they can say the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I think prospective candidates would appreciate. So definitely having those conversations, and that gives the franchisor the ability to be most transparent by sharing the franchisee story and sharing those experiences with each other. And then if you can take those franchisees who are willing to validate for you, I think we mentioned in the article something about using them for franchisee testimonials. So, those same people are willing to talk great about the brand and show how supportive the system really is. And then you can use those, in a whole other way, use that content for social and marketing and your website.
Exactly. Yeah. A little bit of franchisee happiness goes a long way, for sure.
That's for sure.
And then in terms of some of the aggregated content around the web, the one thing I feel like I have to bring it up because it's the thing that is literally all that's in the news right now, but it's coronavirus and how it's impacting brands. I mean, obviously brands that have a lot of locations in Asia, Papa John's decided to close 50 locations in the continent. And I mean, I don't want to minimize the impact of the disease, but some of the advice that the CDC is putting out is stuff that we should just be doing normally, guys, like washing our hands.
I'm just concerned.
Being hygienic, like.
First of all, I don't want to talk about it and just be someone else who's talking about it, because that's what we're doing. But I'm just really concerned why people aren't washing their hands.
Right.
Why is that's not now?
Right. That's like the main PSA is this is something you should be doing regardless of what's going on. So
I don't get it.
That's the major takeaway that we all learned in like preschool.
The thing is now we're not shaking hands anymore. We're not fist bumping. Fist bumping is too much. Elbows, it's kind of awkward.
Nope.
So let's bow.
Yes. We'll just bow. I'm into it. We'll just be really weird or just really antisocial. Like, no. I'm over it. Oh, man.
Part of the
yeah. It's really all that we can do at this point. Oh, man. All right, moving along then to power rankings. So this week we had a few brands that were jumping around. I think the biggest shift that we had is Sobol jumped from number 18 to number 7 this week. Nice. And also, we're seeing that Great Clips was at 14, is now at 11, and Mosquito Hunters was at 16, now at 12. So some new brands are inching their way closer to the top 10, which I always like to see.
I love it. Eggs Up Girl moved up one. That's great. Everybody's making a positive movement.
For sure.
Okay, great. All right. I am going to, it's everyone's favorite time of the week when I pretend to get inside Nick's head and see what his column is about. So this week, his column is all about reimaging your business before selling it. So I am not a business owner. However, I like the metaphor that Nick has throughout this piece because he's talking about what you would do if you were selling a house, kind of the same thing if you're going to sell a business. So obviously, if you're selling your home, you're going to make it look nice, paint it, make sure the lawn's okay, make sure that everything is all squared away, that it'll pass an inspection. And you want to do the same with a business, whether that's a franchise or you're just an entrepreneur that's a small business owner yourself. I do think, though, that if you go into it with the mindset that eventually you are going to exit one day, which might seem a little counterintuitive, but if you are able to look at it like that, you might make some decisions along the way that will ultimately help you throughout the process so that when it does come time to sell, it isn't like, oh crap, I need to rehaul everything. Your dog agrees.
Your dog agrees. Max is on board with Nick's talk.
Great. No, it's smart though. I mean, I think that the more that you go into something knowing eventually how you want to leave it, you're not going to be like, whatever, I can just wait and do this later. Ultimately, you're going to have to do it eventually. So you might as well keep on top of it and maintain a solid business before you're however many years down the line and you're like, oh crap, there are some things that people aren't going to like and it's going to prevent them from buying it. So it'll make your life a lot easier in the end.
That's right. And I think one of the important things to point out is that as an aspiring entrepreneur or somebody who's just starting their business, it's at the beginning that you want to plan the exit. And I think any good business advisor is going to tell you that. So always keep the exit strategy in mind. It might be, like you said, it might be counterintuitive, especially maybe to younger entrepreneurs or to new business owners. But making sure that you're always looking at the end, because I get, you're right. Nick's analogy towards the house is a really good idea, because you're not going to just sell a dilapidated house with like no insides and the wires are all hanging out. You have to make it look its best. And so you have to do the same with the business. I have all of the things coming in.
That was like your internal timer of like, we're done. This is it.
That's it.
Well, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Live to Tell. It's real life. It's chaos.
Welcome to Live to Tell. I am living to tell right now.
I mean, you're a trooper. You weren't planning on this, so thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Here's my exit strategy. I'm out.
Bye. Oh my God, that was so funny.